Since 1990, Cameroon's political dynamics has been anchored on multi-party politics, but the CPDM has been dominating the political scene and has unfettered control over institutions. Critics say this political situation has disillusioned citizens and created widespread cynicisms, with accusing fingers pointing at the government for not making the playing ground level for all when elections hold. However, several initiatives are coming up with the aim of reinforcing political culture and bringing political party leaders and civil society actors towards a common goal. Can this be possible when disunity, selfishness, and to an extent, poor mastery of politics continue to haunt leaders and supporters of opposition political parties in the country? That's our focus on this edition of the program. This is Hard Talk. Welcome back. My guest tonight is an IT expert and entrepreneur whose involvement in the fight for liberty and political pluralism in the early 90s made him a vocal critic of the present establishment. A Pan-Africanist and revolutionary, he inspired the book of renowned critic Eno Meyomese titled Djeukam Tchameni, A Life for the Revolution, Une vie pour la révolution, as the book is titled. Founder of the Student Club of African Culture at the University of Yaoundé. He is also author of the book The Struggle Continues. After 16 years spent largely in Burkina Faso and South Africa, he is back with a platform known as the Citizen Framework for Concertation, a movement that has come to raise awareness on political culture as well as stimulate dialogue amongst Cameroonians in the midst of the country's challenges. Djeukam Tchameni, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you, Peter.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, let's begin with the controversial issue which surrounded the visit of you and members of your platform to the king of Bamenju, that's King Jean Sokoju. Last week on July 26, you had a press conference here in Douala where you frowned at the attitude of the SDO for the Upper Plateau in the West region. The SDO had issued a warning letter to the traditional ruler after he received you people. Why did you fault the senior divisional officer?
Well, I was absolutely surprised by his letter of warning to the king, because we went to the king of Sokoju upon our own demand. We went to visit him, to present to him our initiative, and then seek from this man who is 84 years old and then has been a ruling king for 67 years. Therefore, a person that knows the history of our country, that knows almost all the actors from independence, from years prior to independence till today. So we went to the man to kind of seek advice and then tell him what we were all about, what we were trying to achieve with the citizen framework for consultation. Yeah. That's right. And the man received us kindly. He listened to us, gave us his advice, gave us a tour of his chiefdom, yeah, of his palace actually. Yeah. He had a wonderful museum, and then offered us a meal. And we left. And so I was surprised to hear that a meeting held at this place, or a political meeting or something like that. I don't think that a political meeting is defined by the people that are at the meeting. Or in that case, it means that every time I receive my brothers or my sisters that may be in CPDM, I should declare that they're coming into my house. But it doesn't seem to be the case. When you receive CPDM people, no commotion. But whenever you receive people that appears or that the SDO believe may not be pro-CPDM, then there is a problem. I think that the law shouldn't be working that way.
But you are talking about the fact that when traditional rulers receive opposition leaders, is becoming a problem. But the SDO argues that the meeting was undeclared.
Well, I do not believe that the law of 1990 states that when you have a private meeting in your private home, that you must declare it to the authorities. That means every time you have a birthday party or, I don't know, a wedding or any sort of dinner that you can organize in your house, then you should call the SDO and then tell him, Mr. SDO, give him authorization to do that. Come on, man. I think that we have some basic rights. You know, one of those rights is to receive people in our houses.
The freedom of association, of course.
Well, I don't even go to the freedom of association because this is a natural right that everybody has to have a private home and to receive in that private home whomever you wish to, as long as everything is peaceful, everything goes well. Then the authorities have no business into mingling into your private home. But
you were with members of your platform to see the traditional ruler to discuss some pressing challenges affecting the country, most of them being political. Some critics believe that this should be enough reason for the SDO to call the traditional ruler to order.
Well,
what do you think?
Well, I don't view it that way. We did not go with him to discuss political issues. The man is not part of the citizen framework for consultation.
Yeah.
We took a delegation of the participant to this framework and then went to visit him. So we went to visit him, and then he's just the first of a series of personalities that we will visit throughout the country. So it was a simple visit. That's it. So when you visit a person, you get to talk, but you can't call that talk a political meeting. I just find it absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, His Majesty King Sokojo, during that meeting, welcomed you people, like you said.
Yes.
Tell us, from that point, what did you put to the table concerning your platform? How did you go about telling him about the platform which you had?
Well, we talk like if you go in anybody's house,
Sure.
the person will receive you, particularly a king. He's a fatherly figure. So he sat down. He said, "Oh, my children, welcome. What brings you here?" And then we told him, "Oh, we coming, Father, to present to you this initiative, which we believe can help bring peace into the country." And so I was the one that actually shortly introduced to him the citizen framework for consultation.
Yeah.
And then I said, we are coming to kind of seek your advice because we're starting this thing. We are really concerned about peace, and then we want not to go the wrong way. Because for the past 30 years, we've been trying to make moves, and then, so what could be your advice? And then he said, okay, look, he gave us some very nice advice, some of which was, don't go about it violently, don't be confrontational, if somebody holds a machete, don't try to snatch it from his heart with violence because you might get hurt. That's the type of fatherly, very wise advice that the king gave to all of us. And then we left there very happy, in fact.
Yeah, I read through the press release which you issued to journalists concerning what was discussed in the meeting. And one of the issues which the traditional ruler raised was that Cameroon is being betrayed by its own sons. Do you really believe in what he raised?
Well, actually, when we introduced the framework for consultation to him, we told him that we have identified two main issues that was plaguing the country at this particular time. The first issue was peace. We felt that a country that is not at peace and in peace has no future. So we felt that one of the major challenges that we will address as a platform would be the return to peace in the Northwest, Southwest, and then do what we can also to bring peace in the eastern, the far north region. Mm-hmm. And then we told him that the second problem that Cameroon has is that of excessive influence of foreign powers, particularly former colonial powers, on the way Cameroon is being run, which makes it very difficult for the country to establish democracy, and which makes it very difficult for the country to solve some of the problems that we're facing in Northwest and Southwest. That's what we said to him, and then he went into the history lane like all people do. When you tell them something, they go back into the history, and that's what we were hoping, that we went back to the history and then told us that indeed, Cameroon has faced this issue of lack of sovereignty because the people that fought for independence are not the one that got to rule the country for the past 60 years. Okay. Mr. Ajo and Mr. Biya never fought for independence.
Well, we'll come to that. Now, the traditional ruler gave you people a mission, that for you people to go and get yourself united to ensure that, since he's a man of credibility, like you put it, he has urged people to ensure that all the various actors come to an agreement. With your platform, how do you hope to get the political parties, civil society actors come into one, knowing fully well that in Cameroon there's so much fighting between the various opposition parties? They seem to be more concerned with fighting themselves than getting the governing party out of power.
Yeah, one of the good advices that the king gave us was indeed that you couldn't be in a car with 50 drivers, and that some kind of way, if you have found a common objective, then it is important that people learn how to talk, organize themselves so that they can go in unity toward that objective, which increases the chances of success. And he didn't give us a mission. I mean, he's not in this place to give us a mission, because to give us a mission, it means that he's at the head of us, and then he's part of our organization telling us what to do. No, he gave us an advice. He said, if you want to succeed in your quest of uniting people so as to bring peace, sovereignty, and democracy in Cameroon, then you need to learn how to recognize each other's value, and then learn how to bring the best out of each person into your whatever framework or platform that you want to build. And indeed, we were very happy about that, because one of the characteristic of this framework is indeed that we want to teach political and social actors, or we want to encourage, let me put it like that, it's more modest to say it that way, we want to encourage all social and political actors to talk to each other differently. That is, instead of always looking at what you don't agree on with someone, that you listen carefully and then seek in what the person is saying those things that you have in common, because it's on those things that you have in common that you can build. You cannot build on your differences. Your differences will be your differences. We fought for democracy so that people have the right to hold different opinions without having to hide or being killed for those opinions. However, to build a country, you have to have a minimum consensus. You cannot have a country that's torn apart, where people fighting all the time along tribal lines, linguistic lines, political lines, money lines, and things of that nature. We have to look at something that we have in common, and then that approach has been very successful, because we've been able to, so far, to get about 80 political parties and associations. This is unprecedented in the history of Cameroon.
But you just mentioned about the fact that political parties cannot be successful in their disagreement. What, in your opinion, do you think accounts for these differences in political parties? Why is it that it's so difficult for them to come together? Well,
I have to say this. There are many reasons. Some of them you touch on as you were introducing the program. The first one is, I would say, some degree of lack of political education from the people that even create political parties. They have a fuzzy understanding of what the role of a political party is. And the second thing is that you also have egotistical figures. A lot of ego, selfishness, plays into it. However, I have to say that if those reasons are some of the play a part, the biggest part is that in fact this system has never intended for multipartism to exist. Political parties are tricked into a playing field that is so uneven and so full of difficulties that every day they are tempted into diverting from their main objective. In other words, when you create a political party, the first thing that you find out, you discover that, even though what led you to do so was the notion that we are in a multi-party system and that you could deploy yourself and then present your project to the people and then get them to vote for you, you find very quickly that no, in fact, you are actually criminalized by the government that is supposed to protect your freedom of expression. That is, the moment you say, I am not CPDM, then you start getting everybody against you. You get the SDO, the DO, the commissioner, the army, everybody becomes against you.
But don't you think that is an issue of more or less these parties lacking the mastery on how to play in the field? Because we have over 300 political parties, but
yes,
very, very few of them are present during elections. Most of them are in the suitcases of those who created them. Don't you think that is more or less a problem?
Oh, I don't think that political party leaders are without fault. But in everything you have to
strike a balance.
Yeah, to strike a balance, and then know where the problem really lies. This government never intended to establish multipartism. It was forced upon it. People had to die for the government to do so, and then they did that with as much resistance as they possibly could.
But the President of the Republic said he wanted to be remembered as someone who brought democracy to the country.
So far, I'm not sure that if he was to pass on today, that's how he will be remembered. He'll probably be remembered as a person that's been unable to organize free and fair election, as a person that has allowed his SDOs and DOs to stop political parties from meeting, and then so he's really, and then honestly, I think that God is great, and then he still has 5 years as a president. He can change, he could maybe change, but I am afraid that right now, as we speak, the act of the DO, the SDO, Haut Plateau, shows you clearly that this administration does not intend to allow any form of freedom. I view what is doing as a threat to our initiative. It's not the threat to the chief, because the chief has been receiving people every day he receives people in that place. But why do they have a problem with him receiving us? Is to send a message to all the other people that we might have to meet. That don't meet those people, they're dangerous. If you meet with them, you might get in trouble with the government. And nobody wants to get in trouble with the government nowadays, because the government has all the powers. I mean, they have all the army, they control the police, they control the judiciary, they control everything. So nobody wants to really get in trouble with the government. And then when they play that game, they make you look like you're some sort of criminal nobody wants to really associate with. And it is the problem that we face. The text might say, you are free to meet and stuff, but the way they turn it around is that no, you have to get permission to meet. So
no, but the law says you have to declare, rather than getting permission. You have to declare that you're meeting.
Yes, yeah. And then for the I mean, you're a young man, but let me just ask you: for the past 10 years, how many political parties have been able to legally, other than the CPDM, to go ahead and declare a peaceful demonstration and then had not an interdiction? You declare, and then they say, no, you can't do it because trouble à l'ordre public.
Yeah,
Systematically, for the past 10 years, or almost more than 10 years. So they have no intention of actually allowing people to exercise the freedom.
But have you put these issues across to authorities so that political parties and administrative authorities find a common ground?
This thing has been ongoing. I mean, I've been involved in this fight. I started very young, actually, fighting, about 17, even a little bit earlier than that. And then I fought under Aijo, and then under Bia. And I tell you the way this La République was created. First, it was created to be an oppressive machinery against the people. It wasn't really created to serve the people as it should be. You have to remember that La République du Cameroon was created in 1957 by a decree of the French government. It's very important to understand that if it's a different country that creates you by decree, they're certainly not creating you to serve your people. They're creating you to serve them.
But you all know that France was under France ruled Cameroon under the supervision of the United Nations.
Oh yeah, and then violated every single thing, every single one of those dispositions that they could possibly violate. In 1952, Yobe went to the UN and they say, look, we're ready to get independence. You put us under the tutelage of these people to take us to independence. We're ready. UN, we're not a colony. Cameroon has never been anybody's colony. We've not even been a colony of the Germans.
Of the Germans.
So you put us under these people, we're ready for it. 52. Came back, 1955, French banned his party. 3 years after, killed him. And then, then the whole thing, they started this whole thing. They created that state in 57, then killed him in 58, and then, passed the power to the Stooges. And then in 1961, went and then organized some butch thing in Fumban, 1961. So we had forced independence, forced reunification. That's the problem. That's why the country is going like it is going today. Every Cameroon was built on quicksand. Now,
you mentioned earlier that the foreign influences are weighing heavily, and you just cited some cases. How damaging is this foreign influence to the growth of political activism in Cameroon?
Well, the clear thing is that, when a foreign power seeks to dominate you, the last thing that he wants to have in your country is true democracy, decentralization, federalism, things of that nature, because it makes it very difficult for the foreign power to control a country when a lot of people are involved in the process of making decisions. So it's preferable for them to have a little dictator that sits in one little office, concentrate all the powers, so they put pressure on that dictator and then they can get everything that they want without having to go through any complicated process. That's why I always say the fight for democracy, for decentralization, proper decentralization, and the fight for true sovereignty are intrinsically linked. You cannot just fight to have a different form of a state when the nature of your state is still that of a neo-colonial, that is so much controlled by outside forces that you can do nothing. You have to change the nature, and you have to also address the form of the state. The two, you have to do it.
So how do we go about addressing the nature and later the form of the state?
Well, you address the form. So before I do, let me just explain a little bit this example that I take several times. Yeah. If you have a big pile of garbage in front of your house, and then you divide that big pile of garbage into 10, you will not turn the garbage into rice. Because the nature of garbage is the nature of garbage, and the nature of rice is garbage. You divide garbage by 10, you get 10 piles of garbage. However, if you want to now, if you want to have something other than garbage, then you have to maybe turn that garbage into something, you grow rice on it, and now you can harvest rice and then divide the rice into 10 piles of rice, and then that's what you get. You do not, by splitting something into pieces, you do not change the nature of that thing. That thing stays the same. If you have a house that is in Carabot, in plunged, and then it has 1 bedroom, you divide it in 2 bedrooms, you still have a house in in plunged, and then, with a broken roof and stuff like that. It will not turn your house into a brick house.
A brick house.
So addressing the nature of the state means addressing the sovereignty of a country that now puts himself in a position where that country decides for himself his fate. And when I say this, people might say, you are opposition leader. I don't even use that term because that term is meaningless in this country because some people that are in government say they're opposition. What I mean, if you just look just lately, the people that actually organized a manifestation against in front of the embassy of France, claiming that, no, we are a sovereign country and stuff like that. CPDM members. So they themselves, they recognize that we have a serious problem of sovereignty. If you are a free country, the president of another country couldn't just go on TV and then say, I'll call your president and then, tell him to do this. And then, in fact, I'm the one that called him just a couple of months ago and then told him to free this political prisoner and stuff like that. We are not a free country. That's the truth.
Okay. One of the missions which you said you are embarking to through the Concertation framework is the return to peace. We know that Cameroon has been facing serious security challenges since 2016 and even earlier, 2013 with Boko Haram. We have other incursions from the East region due to the situation in the Central African Republic. What do you think can be done to ensure that lasting peace comes back to the country?
Okay, I have to first distinguish two forms of trouble. There's troubles that are caused by external forces. That's the case in the far north and then in the eastern regions. So in those ones, I think that all Cameroonians has to get together, support the army, the security forces, so that they can get rid of foreign troublemakers. But the problem in the northwest and southwest is different, because it's an internal problem, and it is a political problem that cannot be solved, like, hey, we're going there with big stuff and then we're going to kill people, we're going to kill Cameroonians. We can't do it like that, because those weapons that those military hold in their hand are paid by the taxes of those people that they want to shoot at. So one has to be very careful about that. And then I believe that, and that's one of the major things that we have done in the framework for consultation. We have arrived at a resolution. We took that resolution after, actually yesterday or 2 days ago, a resolution on the return to peace in Northwest and Southwest, where we basically say this: if we want peace, parties to conflict, there's certain things that they have to do, some prerequisites. They have to stop certain things, like stopping human rights abuses, stopping people, people from conducting their normal businesses, freeing the prisoners, people that don't have blood on their hands or people that have never been to court and stuff like that. Why are you keeping them in jail? And then, taking back people where you arrested them. You can't arrest somebody, deport him, put him 500 kilometers from where you arrested him. It becomes a serious problem because the person has not been sentenced yet. And then, so normally that's an innocent person that you're holding. You're just suspecting that he might have committed a crime. But you already treat him like a criminal, deporting him and stuff like that. So there's certain things that need to be done. But now, just to show good faith so that we can just be in the best disposition to start talking. And now, after that, what we propose, which is unique, is that we believe that a group of credible Cameroonians can start this mediation between the warring parties. You know that it has been the position of the government that, well, this is a Cameroonian problem. We don't want no foreign intervention. Yes. But the people that took up arms, they have a different position. They say, I can't trust you, I can't talk to you, I need a third party to facilitate this negotiation. And then we come in and then we say, well, let's try this. Let's look around this country and then find a group of neutral, credible people with high moral caliber. And then they create a panel of men, women, maybe some young people among them too. And then because a lot of people that are in the bush are young, so you need to have in that panel not only people that are old, but also some young people. And then that panel now goes and start talking to everybody that is involved, the people that are involved in the conflict, and then see if they can possibly find a solution. And then I believe that if we talk, we can. The only problem in this country is that this government has never wanted to ever talk to anyone.
But the government organized a major national dialogue, and government officials have been going down to the northwest and southwest regions, meeting the population to see how the crisis can be brought to an end.
Let's be frank. Let's be frank. In this country, the person that holds all the powers is Mr. Biya. If Mr. Biya doesn't talk, there's no talk taking place. That's it. As long as he will not talk, there won't be no talk.
But why don't you view the major national dialogue as something fruitful? Because he convened the dialogue.
Well, the thing is that if he was fruitful, then we wouldn't be talking about peace anymore, right? Then we would be in peace. It clearly wasn't fruitful because there's still war, there's still people displacing themselves. All the people in exile have not come back. The people that are internally displaced, are still, out there. I live in Bonaberi. I know the suffering that people are going through. It's unacceptable that we can stay there and then allow people to suffer in their own country this way. Something has to be done, and something has to be done urgently. And then I believe that the head of state has to get out of his ivory tower and then come down and talk. Talk to us like Chief Sokuju did. He sits down and then he calls his children and say, what's the problem? And that's it. As long as he doesn't do that, peace will not come back here.
All right. Government says that it is fighting to protect the territorial integrity of the country.
Against whom?
Which is a legitimate right for the government.
You're protecting the territorial integrity of your country against the citizens of that country?
But the government says that some citizens in that country are trying to break away the country, which is something which is unconstitutional.
My position is no. I will never support anybody that says he wants to break up Cameroon. However,
yes,
I can understand that in front of disrespect, constant marginalization, constant just disregard and arrogance, that people can be unhappy and then get into that position. But the thing is, I know a lot of the people that are now heading movement that are saying they want to secede from Cameroon.
Exactly, I'll come to that very soon.
All right, and yes, and then so I think that a government shouldn't frustrate people and then put them, put their back against the wall the way this government does. They have to kind of ease the thing and then understand that this country, we are not the subject to the government. The citizens of this country are not the subject of this government. No, they are there to serve us. And normally, if they had any legitimacy, they would know so. Unfortunately, and then that's the problem. The problem is that how did they get to power? We didn't put them there. Therefore, they don't care.
But elections have been holding.
Oh, please. Come on, man. Everybody knows in this country that the result of elections are known before. I've been to elections in 1997.
And 2004.
And then 2004. I know exactly how this thing works. I'm even surprised that it's only in 2018 that some people discover at the Constitutional Court that these elections are rigged from the beginning. That is, the people that designed the electoral system designed it with rigging in the mind. And then it's not small-time rigging where the people do the rigging in the last minute. It is structured to be a rigged system. That makes it impossible for anybody other than the CPDM to win.
But international groups, election observers have always praised Cameroon's electoral system. Why do you think that is a rigging machinery when elections have come, elections take place, and the election observers always give a pass mark to the fact that the elections are holding within the set norms?
Well, the thing is, you have to understand, you know, when you have somebody that is skillful in rigging, he can indeed get international observers in at a particular time when he has already set up his machine in such a way that the results are known. And then those international observers, you have to listen carefully to what they say. They say that from the time I came, and then in the voting station that I visited, I saw nothing that I can, that I can complain about. I saw people peacefully voting. I saw the votes being counted, and then and then everything was peaceful. And it seems to me that the results that came out of there are the result of what happened. But it is not the place of the observer to analyze the electoral process the way I would do it, for instance, saying, wait a minute, there's 12 million people at the voting age in Cameroon. Only 6.5 million about are registered to vote, and then about 3 million only vote. Even if those people voted peacefully and then everything like that, the people that come out of such a vote are not legitimate. I'm sorry. But, because you have 9 million people that did not participate in your process.
All right. We shall be coming back to that after this question that I'm going to ask you now. You mentioned that you met, time past you met with some separatist leaders.
Yes.
Before the movement grew to what we know today. How was the meeting? And are you, in this present dispensation, still in contact with them, trying to urge them to see how they can end the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions?
Yeah, I told you earlier that I've been involved in the fight to improve Cameroon one way or the other since for about 40 years. So I met almost every name that here that were involved in fight. The fight for democracy in Cameroon did not start in 1990. Like in 1966, when Aidjo decided to create one single party, some resistance started from there. I was young at the time, but I got involved in that fight by the, I might have been, I don't know, 14, 15, and then we were fighting on the ground to get the system to open up. And then there were some underground organizations, that were there fighting. In fact, I was arrested in 1988 and then put in jail. I stayed in 1988, 1990, 1989, 1990. That's when I was free. So we were arrested because we were trying to force the system. Now, what they did is that in 1990, they arrested Yondo Black. And then the lawyers rose up. And then that's where everything,
which ended with the creation of the SDF.
That led exactly, because when they arrested Yondo Black and his crew, they said no, we didn't arrest them because they wanted to create a political party, which actually that's the reason why they arrested them. So the lawyers then, because they had arrested one of them, started reading the law and then discovered that in fact there was no law forbidding the creation of a party in Cameroon, and the president quickly said, yes, in fact, no, that's not why we arrested them. We arrested them for something else. And then that's when SDF moved on, and then in May of 1990, very opportunistically, and then, no, it wasn't May, it was in fact in March. And then, waited two months. And they say, okay, if after 2 months you haven't said no, it means it's yes. Yes. So that's a little bit the story. But I was telling you about this long fight that started before 1990. To say that I've been in contact with people like the Mukons, I've been in contact with them on the ground already, a long time ago. And then even the former, all the people that, so that's just to give you some names, very quickly, because, your audience is probably young as you, and then they don't know a lot of the things that happened before. As early as 1987, there were groups that were already forming on the ground to prepare what would become the SDF later on. And then there was also in the underground some other movement like the UNDPC of Bello. That was at the time, Mr. Bello was at the time in Nigeria. And then he created an underground party. There was Gerandi in Burkina Faso that created the FPC. That was also an underground political party. And then, of course, there was the UPC that had been there fighting underground forever. So those political parties plus a small little underground political party called Pan-Africanist Party P2 that was actually created by me and a couple of university friends. And we were always in contact. And among the people that were agitating already even in those days were people that were saying, no, things didn't go well in 1961, we want to get out of this thing and stuff like that. And, so in 1993, when I went back to the U.S., because I studied in the U.S. from 82 to 85, then I left, and then I went back there in 1993, stayed until 1996 about that. I met also a lot of the pro-secessionist Cameroonians that were there. Then we had a talk. My position to them was, you know what, you cannot, if you do not address the nature of this state and then come together so you address the nature of this state, you'll never be able you won't be able to succeed, because the common enemy is right there. We have to get together, get this thing off our back. And then at that time, if we sit down and then we have a referendum and then people decide that we don't want to live together, then we don't live together. Because we came together with a referendum, we cannot come out, we cannot break it other than with a referendum. So that's clear. In 2016, I met with the group, the South African group, before they will go to Nigeria, and then everybody knows what happened. Some of the people that were to go to Nigeria. And they admitted me in like a consultant, because some members didn't want me to even come in there and talk, saying I was from La République, so they didn't want to have anything to do with me. But others say, no, come on, man, we know this man, he's always been, on the side of justice and stuff like that. So let him come in and then see what he has to say. So we talked about the various methods of the various strategic options that a movement has when it wants freedom, wants to seek freedom. So that was my expose. I did it, and then later on, discussion ensued. But my abiding position, what I understood, is that these people that are saying they want to get out of the country are crying out the pain and the suffering of many years of disrespect and disregard, and then are saying they don't want to take it anymore. And then I completely agree with them. I mean, you can't, a government cannot act in such a disrespectful manner, as if they are some sort of foreign envoy that have come here to put us under slavery. This is unacceptable. Unfortunately, that's what we've been under for 60 years.
But now, how do you hope to use your platform to make them to shift their grounds?
Well, I believe that if the climate is created for people to talk, first of all, I believe that if the lawyers and the teachers were not beaten and then arrested, we would not have gotten into this. There were always some people that wanted secession, but they had no platform, because as long as there was still hope that there could be other ways of getting to solve some of the fundamental and legitimate issues, then people were exploring them. And they were just a marginal group. But the moment the government itself closed all avenues, what you do? When you put the back against the wall, what do you do? And then that's why I'm warning the government. I'm telling them, you know what? Look at that situation in the Northwest and Southwest as a warning sign. Don't break the thermometer. Just read the thermometer and then back off. Open up and start talking. I believe that
talking with who?
With everybody. With everybody with everyone. Oh, you know, as I know that, you know, the groups that are saying they want to secede, they're so divided and they're fighting among themselves.
That's the issue.
But that's the issue too. The problem is that even right here, the people that do not want to take up arms, they're fighting among themselves. You know, and this is when you have a dispensation, a political dispensation that does not allow to freedom of speech, then that's what it produces. That is not only you can't talk to the government, but even among yourself, you don't develop the culture of talking, and then that's what we are trying to bring back with the framework for consultation. Yeah. That is, we say to the government, whether you like it or not, we are going to talk. I am going to talk to any Cameroonian that wants peace, and then you can't stop me. And then I will not ask any permission from anyone to talk to any Cameroonian. I won't do that. I will never. I'm saying it officially. I will never go to SDO to ask to that man the permission to talk to another Cameroonian. I will never do that.
Will you not be landing yourself into trouble?
No, I don't think so. They'll be landing themselves into trouble if they stop me from talking peace. They have a war for 4 years. They'll not be able to solve it. So if good-willed Cameroonian start an initiative and then get the ears of people that want peace, and then they go about it peacefully, because we're not using any weapon. We say we're talking. I mean, you can't stop people from talking about peace. I mean, what is this? I won't ask you no permission, because you're proven unable to solve the problem. And then I'm saying, look, I am just as concerned about the problem as you are, and then I am going to organize a group of people that will now try to talk and then try to see if they can appease the situation. And then you want me to come and ask you for permission? Permission for what?
Now, so many platforms have come, like yours, talking about the need for peace.
Yes.
And even some who have tried to activate the political culture amongst the citizens. You just mentioned that people register on the electoral list, but they don't vote because some of them have that spirit of resentment. Now, what do you think accounts for that attitude, and how can it be revived?
The attitude of who? The people that refuse to vote?
Yeah, the people that refuse to vote or take part in politics.
But they're responding to the repressive nature of the government. That does not allow them to deploy themselves freely. You know, if you want to organize any political meeting, you systematically are forbidden from doing so. So now, if you are not able to talk to people and explain your position and stuff like that, that not only because what the government has done, yes, they allow us to come on TV and then talk all we want. But you see, that's what I call liberté de bavardage. You know, that is, you're allowed to just run your mouth, actually. But political organizations require that you go down on the field and then that you talk to people, that you touch them, not that you become some sort of comedian that is on television, you know, just talking and they're talking, doing nothing.
Okay. You were part of those who, you have given us the story of how the fight for political pluralism and the liberty laws came about. When you look down the lane, what do you make of the present political situation in the country, particularly the opposition leaders?
What I can say is that we've gone through some phases, and if you notice, for the past 16 years almost, I was silent.
Yeah, you were silent.
I was silent because the scene was really not conducive to any positive action, because the whole field is you know, like you have mines all over the place. You cannot actually deploy yourself. And then I have the utmost respect for the people that try to do those things during those years. But right now, you know, and then as I always say, you know, my grandmother was a farmer. And then every time I went to her, she would tell me, you know what, you don't plant in any season. You have to always plant at the right season.
At the right season?
Yes.
After the first rains?
Yeah, after the first rains, exactly. You know, so So I apply that in politics, and then I say, there's a certain time that you see the small little rain, and then you say, now you can plant, and then with the hope that it can grow and produce something. And then I feel that Cameroonians have a window of opportunity now due to two factors. The number one factor is that le vieillissement du système, that is...
Yeah, the system is getting old.
Yes, getting old. Not only the person that incarnates the system, but like almost everybody around him. Just they're really getting old. And then the second thing is that France's influence in the world is weakening. So those two factors, and then the third factor that I might have forgotten is that there seem to be a bit of a conflict, between France and then his people that he's been working with in terms of how to manage the succession. So it gave us maybe an opportunity to do something good for our country.
All right, this last question. You have been out for 16 years, you're back in the country. Would you accept a nomination into the BIA government? And 2025 is on the way. Are we going to see Djeukam Tchameni as presidential candidate?
To the first question, my answer is clearly no, because I do not believe that as long as Mr. Biya holds all the key to powers, that he has the possibility of nominating a government that has no power that can do anything. I don't want to become a minister and then have no power to change anything. I will, however, be more than happy should a political process be in place that is working toward changing the institutional dispensation. And then they ask me, can you participate in that? I say yes, even as just a cleaner, I'll do that. Yeah. Now, as far as presidential election is concerned, my position has always been that to serve your country, you don't have to be president. I will serve, you can serve your country just as a human rights activist. You can serve your country as, I don't know, just a good teacher can solve your problem. I just feel that this obsession for people for the presidency is just due to the fact that we've lived for 6 years under dictatorship, and then we've learned to almost, we are the victim of dictators, but we have a secret admiration for them. I don't have that type of fantasy, in fact.
All right. Thank you very much, Djeukam Tchameni, for talking on Hard Talk.
Thanks very much.
And to you, televiewers, it was a pleasure being with you on this edition of Hard Talk. Until next time for another edition of the program. Bye-bye.